Manticore draws
a couple nightmares. So I think we're starting with mine.
Yeah.
Now this is the first nightmare I ever remember having.
So how old do you think you were?
4. We were still. This was when we lived in Altamont, New York, in a little ranch house. So that was, and the dream occurred in that house. So I remember the layout of the house, and also I was very small, so everything's like drawn from the perspective of a very small.
I mean, already this is very dramatic. Oh, he looks so pleasant, though.
Yeah, I have to change that later. So. So I was always a kid who liked spooky stuff, but for whatever reason, there was a scene in Muppet Frog Prince.
Always less friendly now.
Where the Muppet named Sweetums is swinging like a gigantic hammer at Kermit and who became his nephew, the little one.
Robin.
Yeah, and
that was clearly important for me to have in my brain.
Well, so there was a scene where it's just like, and it's like it's tense, and so it's big, dramatic, and he's hitting things, and like dust is coming up, and this is how I remember it, and hopefully I'm at least remembering the right movie that it's in. But anyway,
rewatch it.
That scene, Sweetums was very scary to me, which of course, being a child who like went to creepy things, like I liked Sweetums a lot, but I did have a nightmare where Sweetums murdered my entire family with an axe. And when he started coming after me, I woke up. And so I am drawing Sweetums from the Muppets with a giant axe, because this is the first nightmare I ever remember having.
And taking up the whole door.
It's like, well, he's big. He's big.
He is big.
Sweetums is like 7 feet tall. He's bigger than people.
Oh.
Yeah, just, A, to fit the canvas, and B, it like makes it feel like he's even taller.
Yeah.
So you can see that's the pencil I got. He takes up the entire doorway. There's no getting around him.
And here we are inking. Ooh, look at that nail.
Yep. I just forgot I had my eraser set to not fully erase, so... Yep, started with the hands, because we skipped over it real quick, but I drew that axe like 8 times to try and get it right. I'm still not super happy with it, because the angles are off, but it's also a dream, so forgiving it.
Yeah, you can get away with it.
Yeah, the axe head's not quite in line with the thing, but it fits the scene.
It is a dream and a Muppet.
Yeah.
It can be whatever you want. Oh, he's already looking intimidating. Eyebrows.
Gotta get that nose, the little bit of the underside, because...
Well, yeah, we're looking up.
Yeah.
At these... Oh. Oh, it gets worse and worse.
The eye bags, really.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what does it.
Yeah.
This...
Which is accurate to the character.
Yeah.
Big old eye bags on him.
Little goatee going on.
He was in other stuff, too. Like all Muppets, like... He was playing a part in the movie, because that's their whole shtick. And then, like, in the show, he's perfectly, like, just sweet big guy.
Yeah, he's Sweetums.
Yeah, he's Sweetums.
But, you know, he got typecast for this.
Yeah.
Poor guy.
Why does the monster have to be the bad guy? Feels a little bit racist.
Did he ever hang out with the Sesame Street monsters?
I don't know.
Because I feel like they could have helped him out, you know?
I realized I did the hinge angles wrong. It has to match the door, so it has to go down and not up.
Yeah. Well, at least you figured that out now, rather than after color and after everything else.
It's always good to figure it out earlier, rather than later.
I often don't notice things like that until after it's posted on the internet. At that point, oh well. Back
when I did my comics, the number of comics I just... like that night reposted with a typo corrected.
Yeah. Yeah, well that's why I do...
The door frame I just got too big, so
that's why I do all my scripts separately in a Word doc, so it just tells me if something's misspelled. Because when I tried to do things directly in either Photoshop or when I was doing things by hand, everything was always misspelled. There's no spell check in life. So, I like Word. I like it telling me when I'm wrong.
I like to be corrected when I'm wrong.
Yeah.
Something on to color. He's a very warm, theme to him. His eyes are yellows. He's got oranges and reds on him. His fur's like a tan brown, so...
It sounds calming when you say it that way, but in practice it is not.
Big yellow eyes.
Yeah. You know, it's browns and orange and yellows, and then it's just monstrous. Oh, the eye bags.
Doing the eye bags.
Oh, the eye bags.
I'm sleeping well. Just fill it all in quickly. But then it's a slightly different orange for the nose and the lips, so you see it's a little bit redder, it's a little bit darker. It's more visible once the other colors are there against the plain backdrop. It looks very similar in orange.
But it is a slightly different hue.
Yeah. And I did forget to fill in the nose for a second. And move on to the teeth.
Yeah, you got distracted.
I do have the ADHD, so...
It happens.
I moved on.
Well, done with that.
Yeah.
There we go. You got the nose.
There we go.
See, now it's more
Bland.
obvious, too.
Yeah, that's very Sweetums.
Mm-hmm.
I did embellish his hands a little bit, because it's one of those gloved Muppets, but he does only have 3 fingers.
Yeah.
So I embellished his hands a little bit, because it's the same color as his fur, but I was just like, no, it's going to stick out, it's going to be darker. You know, I wanted to push some of the darknesses.
Yeah, the shadows and the perspective.
So yeah.
Have it all work together.
Yeah, this is my first nightmare. I think at this point, my little sister had been born.
Just barely, though, if you were 4.
If I was 4, yeah, she was probably super young. 4 or 5. Like, it was before... It had to be before I was 8. And if I was watching Muppet Frog Prince, I'm assuming I was somewhere between 4 and 6.
So, at least this nightmare wasn't your sister's fault.
No, this nightmare was not my sister's fault.
See, that's good. That's good. But she was too young.
Well, it really didn't give me any guff. So, yeah, he's got this big old unibrow I wanted to make sure I captured.
Yeah. Intimidating brow. Oh, what's happening with your axe?
I'm trying to fix the axe. It has a negligible effect. I have to rematch the line width, and then... Yeah, I wanted to... It's slightly better. It just makes the axe head look on crooked, instead of just, like, being the wrong perspective all around.
Yeah, that's fair.
So it could be an old axe.
Yeah.
You go to murder a family, you just use what's there. You don't...
You don't buy fresh.
Yeah. Go to the hardware store, buy an axe, and it's just like, oh, what's your project? Murdering a family? Oh, shit, I wasn't supposed to kill anyone.
Yeah, you know. And then you have receipts to deal with unless you pay cash.
Yeah. This is why you should always just have industrial garbage bags pre-purchased. So if you do murder someone, you don't have receipts.
We're not endorsing...
No, don't murder people. But have industrial
do.
garbage bags around. And that way, if you do murder people, you don't have to buy garbage bags, because that shit'll get you caught.
Like if you're gonna get away with it. Is that our lesson here?
I want everyone to be competent at what they do.
No matter what it is they're doing.
I overshot the fur because I wanted to put some darkness. I fixed that later, but it's just doing the...
Just general shape of general area.
Yeah.
General. Oh, well, he's so yellow.
Very yellowy. And strangely enough, looking at photos of him, except for the head, a lot of him isn't furry. It's just like fabric. Like they just put him in a raggedy suit thing, but I'm just like, no, I remember him as the big furry thing.
Yeah, no, I remember him entirely furry.
Well, mostly they just shot him shoulders up, so...
That's fair.
Like, he's got big Muppet feet, and he's got the gloves, but, like, other than that, they just have him in, like, a canvas bag that's cut weird to, like, simulate fur, but they didn't fur him all over.
It worked, though.
It
because
did.
we remember him as furry.
Yeah. Well, your child brain fills stuff in, and also, can you imagine being in a full fursuit?
You'd die.
Yeah.
You'd overheat, the suit would get so gross. You know, anything you touched would just have fur everywhere. Like, there's so many things. No, they made the right choice.
He's also got the flappy mouth, too. So whoever the puppeteer was, I'm pretty sure could operate, like, one hand on a mouth, or both hands, but not both.
There were some giant ones where the person inside is just the hands, and then the head was operated entirely remotely.
Do you think they did a whole, you sit on my shoulders and operate the mouth?
No, there was, at least somebody in Fraggle Rock, there was an actual, like, a robot head.
Huh.
That it was being programmed. But I don't know if that was much later or if that was always the case.
I think Fraggle Rock did come later than Muppet Frog Prince.
Probably. It'd be interesting to look into, to see, like, what is Sweetums? What is your skeleton?
I should rewatch Muppet Frog Prince.
We should. Absolutely.
Then I have new nightmares.
No, we'll watch Muppet Frog Prince, and we'll watch Pee-wee's Big Adventure. Because that was the one that gave me a nightmare for no reason.
The bus driver, you said.
Yeah.
Which I don't think I've seen any Pee-wee movie full through.
There was no reason for this to scare us. It was just this one moment where she's got, like, claymation face because she's upset. She's angry. And it's a second of footage, and it was enough that I got very scared as a small child.
Sometimes all it takes is that one thing that sticks in your brain.
Yeah.
Then your brain makes it worse.
Like, the talking couch was fine.
Well, the talking couch was nice.
Yeah, that was fine, but didn't like her. You got the door frame.
I tried to make the stuff around him cool colors to, like, accentuate the hot colors that he is.
Yeah. There's his nails. He's got his nails done. A little manicure.
Yep. And now I'm going to make it spooky. Now I add on the spook.
Since it's all sped up, it's a lot of watching the mouse go around, figuring things out.
Blip, 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 blip. It skips a lot of my mistakes though, so I like it. Because I did finagle with this a while to try and get it. The blood is something I do work with for a while because I was thinking a multiply layer, but that made it too dark on top. So then I did a lighten layer, and that made it look like pinky purple, like fuchsia. So what I ended up doing is I just turned down the transparency so you can like see through a bit.
It worked. And when it wasn't colored at all, it just looked wet. Like clear goop.
Yeah. But no, he's murdering a whole family, so in a small upstate New York town.
Lots of murders, I'm sure.
Well,
I mean, you hear a lot about closer to Massachusetts and New England, but, you know, upstate New York, we're pretty close. Pretty close to New England area.
I actually, growing up, I thought upstate New York was New England.
Because we're New England adjacent.
Yeah. Because Massachusetts is, and, like, New Hampshire is, and Connecticut, so it's just like, oh, if they are, we are.
I've been privy to that argument, actually. There are people who said, no, it counts, but, I mean, we're New York. New York is just huge. New York is like its own little weird country.
I mean, it's New York. York is in England, so we are New England in that case, but I think the argument is
That's more direct.
I think the argument is the original settlers in the valley were Dutch.
Yeah.
So, like, at that point in time where the valley was Dutch, Massachusetts was people from England.
I mean, I think the argument in question was just, like, when people ask whether or not we are upstate or if we're just mid-state, you know?
If you live in a community where you aren't commuting to the city, you are upstate.
It's just New York City.
If you don't go to the train station Monday through Friday and go into the city, you are upstate if you're in New York. That's my view.
Everything other than New York State. Like, that's so much upstate. Everything is upstate other than New York City.
Basically. I mean, that's why you make the distinction between upstate New York City, because you say New York outside of the state, and everyone assumes you're talking about the city.
That's true.
Which statistically, probably, but you shouldn't assume it.
Yeah, population-wise. It's all very condensed.
So yeah, New York is defined by its largest city, which is one of the most famous cities in the world. That's not a bad thing. It's just no one thinks New York and thinks, oh, all the cow farms. But we have a lot of cow farms.
We do.
Oh, and in the spooky lighting.
Yeah, tell me about these.
The horror story lighting. Well, he has big eyebrows that poke out a lot, so they'd cast a shadow.
That's fair.
And of course, I made a mistake. I've made mistakes.
You fixed it. You're good. You're fine.
So I wanted to spooky up his eyes and just make him really imposing.
You succeeded.
Especially from a child's perspective.
How many layers is this color on?
I think I do 3 different layers of color. 4 if you count the scenic shade of the purple, the dark purple at the bottom to make it look...
Yeah.
Like I wanted to draw the eye to the face.
That's fair.
So like the door angles point you up. The axe angle doesn't do that. But...
Well, you fixed it slightly.
Yeah, I fixed it slightly.
And I don't know, I think it kind of does. Because you're at least looking at the blood splatter and then more blood on the axe, you know?
Yep.
Here's the finished piece.
That's the murderous Sweetums that haunted my childish nightmares.
Yeah, that would scare a child. That would scare a grown adult.
Yeah. Oh, no, if that burst into your house, yeah, you're screaming. I don't care what age you are.
Yeah.
But it was a product of my spooky, obsessed child's mind, so...
Yeah. Yeah, fair. But
yeah.
This was good.
Yeah, luckily just a nightmare. Didn't really happen. I do remember it, though.
Vividly.
Yeah, well, the thing is that even to this day, I rarely remember my dreams. Like, if I wake up and I go, I remember my dream, it's a thing. It happens, like, maybe 3 times a year. So the fact that this dream has stuck with me for at least 25 years.
Yeah. Well, I always figure that the trick to recalling a dream is immediately think of the most recent piece of it and then work backwards. And then write everything else down as you're doing it.
For recent dreams, yeah, that's the way to do it, because you won't remember the start of it, because dream logic just kind of like blasts through plot holes.
Oh, absolutely.
But yeah, so that's my spooky nightmare.
And
that's a big canvas.
Yes. Well, and no. This is 1/3 of a page, approximately, because this is going to be one panel in a whole big comic I want to do. And I had to speed this up at like 600% because this took so long. But I was determined. And I was nervous about it. I wanted to put this off because I hate it, and you'll see why I hate it. I don't hate the final piece. I hated doing it.
I often, with projects, just want them to be done in a state that I'm happy with without actually having to do the doing.
Yeah, that would be great, but it involves the doing.
Like, once we get the technology where I can just plug something into my brain and show you on a screen the thing I'm thinking of, I'm doing that. I'm doing that.
Oh, yeah.
Because my mind's eye has always been much better at this is the way I want it to look than my hands are at doing the thing.
So this was supposed to be Scary School Bus, and so my first thought is so many seats, and they'd be going way off, and they'd be turning slightly as you go farther back, but I wind up changing that, and I wind up changing the position of everything about 1,000 times, and here I get really frustrated.
Oh, yeah, I can see it.
Here's me going, ah! So I'm obviously fine. This whole piece took a very long time. Just because of all the tiny little parts, and the longest part of it was the sketch itself.
You were working for a while.
A long while. Back to the first seat on the right here.
I do like how it kind of creepily, like the seats on the left, it's not a straight line back, it starts curving.
well, it was more dramatic before, and then it becomes less dramatic. It goes back and forth a lot. But
it's a good idea, though.
It's been a long time since I was on a bus, in my defense. Of any kind. I was never a fan of the school bus.
I was the first stop on the school bus, so I literally had to be out there like 6:15 in the morning.
Just forever.
Well, we were the first stop on a country route that took like an hour, and we had to get to school 15 minutes early. So 6:15 in the morning, New York, February, so I had to be out for the bus. Until I got old enough that they would let me walk up the street to where, because we were at the start of the loop. So if I just walked a block up the street, I could get the end of the loop as the...
Yeah, okay.
So
yeah.
High school, it got better, because I could sleep in for like an hour.
I was so short. I was like underneath snow when it got tall enough, and nobody cared. I was always so cold and so miserable. But, yeah. So now we're on to trying to figure out the ink. And just finalizing things, and even now I'll wind up correcting
because of the angles of this. It seems like the bus is in motion. Like it gives that sort of feeling.
That is nice to hear. Thank you. Yeah. See, I already am like, wait, that line is wrong, and start moving things. So yeah, sketch be damned. Already I decided I was wrong.
Well, the sketch is there to guide you, but then you look at it and you go, no, we can fix that.
Yeah. Just so many seats forever. I had so much trouble with school buses even as a kid. Not just drawing them, but being on them. Like, was it kindergarten? Whenever it was that... No, it was my kindergarten teacher who noticed me having trouble getting on the school bus because it was one of those buses that had the big 3 steps to get on instead of smaller ones.
You were always very small.
Yeah, I just look like this. And she saw that and went, oh, okay, the problem isn't that she's short, the problem isn't that she might have a, I don't know, minor underlying disability that we've ignored. No, don't be silly. It must be that she needs more physical education. And so they put me in these, like, secret PE classes, and I say secret because my parents were never asked. But they were given a progress report, so they knew I was doing well in this thing that they assumed every child was going through.
And then you used that to get out of PE in high school.
I did.
Because they weren't allowed to do that.
I did. I was like, hey, you want to get sued? Hey, my parents don't care, but I do.
I can't imagine, because, like, around high school, every teacher is just like, you have to carry around this 20-pound textbook.
Yeah.
You have 3 minutes between classes, so you just have to carry around. I just didn't carry books around with me.
Oh, I was the opposite, because I didn't know where my locker was. Ever, especially in middle school, I never knew where my locker was.
You do have a terrible sense of direction.
Yeah, no, I was that kid who would be like, hey teacher, here's a map, tell me how to get to my next class, almost every day. And so I would bring my first half of the entire day with me through every single class because I didn't think I'd be able to make it in time to all my different classes. And then I'd find my locker in time for lunch, replace it with my lunchbox, replace it again with the second half of my school stuff.
Ooh, that got really claustrophobic.
Yeah, well, because I was wrong. Oh, God. So I accidentally tipped it and then said, this is fine. And then used it as okay, this might be better and easier to make the lines the way I want them to be anyway.
I'm tilting my head subconsciously.
This brought back a lot of I don't like school moments.
You know what my favorite part about school is, just as a system?
What?
I love how we have all these studies about how starting school later helps children and homework doesn't help children. We have all these studies about how people learn, and we know our system is bad, but everyone just shrugs and goes, yeah, but that's the way we do it.
Yeah, it's tradition.
Yeah, that's my favorite part.
Uphill both ways.
So my favorite part is that in the education system, they refuse to fucking learn.
Well, because keep in mind, I just said I hated school. I still went to college on purpose for a decade.
I hated school so much I almost didn't go to college. And my parents would kibosh that idea. I was going to be forced to go to college no matter what. But I hated school. Which is weird because I loved learning.
Well, see, that's the thing.
But the structured school environment, the people in power who just wanted to lord power over 12-year-olds, I hated those motherfuckers. And they made it miserable. And my peers made it miserable.
I knew that in college, hypothetically, I would be able to choose my classes a bit more and my schedule a bit more. And so that was nice for me. To be able to be like, alright, I will school, but I will school my way.
I was in community college, and I found the school that I eventually transferred to because I found the music industry program, and I was amazed that such a thing existed, because I just
wanted to go to art school.
Well, my entire life is just like, it was never presented to me that people had fun jobs or jobs they enjoyed, so I was just going to become an accountant.
That's true.
I was good at it. I can do numbers, but, I would have killed myself if I had to be an accountant.
Can we talk about this cat's leg?
It's doing a very Sky thing with the stretching.
And then...
a little pirouette.
And then I realized I wanted that cat in an entirely separate layer. So I had to cut it and then paste it somewhere else. I should explain what this is.
Nope.
Well, I said it's going to be a full comic.
It's still going to be about your nightmare, though. This is just a scene out of the full comic.
Yeah, it's just a moment. Because it was a bus, and there were children on it, but the children were, not okay. Though they seemed to not realize they were not okay. Hands. Oh my god, hands.
You're so good at hands. Look at those arms.
Hands are hard.
It is so,
I didn't know where to put the pinky.
But you have such good depth there, because you can see the raise of the wrist and the lowering of the back of the hand before the fingers curl. It's so good.
Oh, well, thank you. There were cats, and there was blood on the ground. I remember that. There was lots of blood on the floor of the bus, and that's part of why I wound up climbing over the seats like this to try to get to the back where somebody was talking to me. So that's why this is happening. These are my arms.
So just everything was uncomfortable except for the cats.
Yeah, the cats were fine. They were happy. They were having a good time. They weren't, mean or anything. They just lived there. They were like cats you'd see in, an old bookstore.
Oh, old bookstore cats.
Yeah, they were those cats.
Or bodega cats.
Yeah, they just lived there.
Ostensibly there for the mice, but they haven't moved in 3 years.
Yeah, they're just having a good time. Free food. In this case, I assume it's the children that is free food. Oh, straight lines. Even when you have the tool to make the straight lines, which I clearly had here, I managed to have trouble with it. Which you can see a couple of times. Why?
Straight lines are hard.
Yeah, but I just had to hit shift and I still couldn't do it. Perspective is hard.
I really like the perspective of this, though, because it does...
Cats are fine.
Those, I won't call them museums, but those places where the architecture's weird to mess with you?
Yeah.
This looks like one of those. This is the hall to the gift shop in one of those weirdly built houses where it's this faucet flows up.
I appreciate that. Like a fun house.
Yeah.
I like that. Figuring out the seats again for the 10,000th time. Realizing that I don't like the height of those seats, but maybe it's fine because I don't want to deal with it anymore.
Did your school buses have seatbelts?
Sometimes, not all of them.
Okay,
it depended on the bus.
I just remember that no one used them, of course.
Oh, no one used them either way, but some of the buses straight up didn't have them, and other ones did. And the ones that did, the seatbelt was either flopped over the top because no one was using them, or they were stuffed in the seat in a way that was really awkward to sit on.
Yeah.
But no one was using them anyway. Oh, Lord. Yeah, no, there was no making use of... Do buses today have seats, belts,
I think it depends on where you are.
Kids safe?
Both our school districts were relatively well funded and well past the invention of seatbelts.
And yet still did not.
And yet still it was seen as a very optional thing, both in use and design. Okay.
Hands aren't as hard for me to draw as children are. Children are difficult for me because I don't understand children proportions. I had a lot of problems with this particular person with this little hat.
I've always heard to make their heads bigger. But then they just look like bobbleheads.
Yeah, I didn't want them to be like that. I understood that I wanted the kids to be the right height in relation to the seat for the ages I wanted them to be, but other than that, they're all horrible. I don't like drawing children. And I did change
little children.
I did change the boy with the hat a few times. which you'll see later, but I wanted their eyes to basically just be holes in their heads. This big gaping nonsense. I gave them different hairstyles. Tried to make them look a little different, each one.
It's a good mix of cats and kids.
Cats and kids.
Kids and cats and kids and cats.
This should not be a children's book. I was about to be like, that's the title of the No. Oh, there he goes. Hello.
Nope. Oh, yeah, he's growth spurt.
Yeah. Because he shouldn't be the same size as the kids behind him if he's that much closer to us.
Oh.
So, here's awkward person. I was that person. Just sitting awkwardly.
I was at the back of the bus sleeping.
I remember in elementary school you couldn't be in the back unless you were one of the, like, older kids. It was something to be earned.
Well, that was the thing about being first on the bus is no one was there to tell me no. So I'd just be back there.
That's fair. I still like that one cat with the leg. Lovely cat. What am I even fixing at this point? Oh, color. I'm on color. That's what's happening.
Yay, colors. Oh, the cats.
Yeah, and I had to figure out where they actually were. Because it's all just scribbled lines.
Remember where the cats are.
Yeah.
So you did a lot of line work.
Yeah. Tried to make the cats look all a little different.
A good mix of kitties.
And again, these are not angry cats. That one has a paw stretched out poking the kid, but it's very, like, it's playful.
It's making biscuits.
Yeah. Here's this cat. I didn't draw as many cats as I had pictured. But like you said before about the dream logic, more cats would not have worked. Because in my dream, there were cats covering the floor, but you could somehow still see underneath them. And that doesn't work.
Oh, we're onto the bloody floor.
Yeah. The blood.
Well, also, like, yeah, I think more cats would have been a distraction. You can see that this is full of children and cats, and that's really all they're trying to portray.
Yeah. And I darkened some of that up. I used a gradient on the floor, and I used a gradient later in a few places just to force the back really far in the back, visually.
It does work.
Like that.
Though, yeah.
There's one of the gradients. And I play with it, try to make it do what I want it to do.
Oh, yeah. I do the same thing with my purple gradient. So.
Because that was the thing, too, in the dream.
Ooh, that is a sickly green-yellow.
The outside of the bus, I couldn't see outside. I knew there was an outside, but it was just gray fog. So I wanted to depict that as best as I could, and I feel like this was the way to do it. Everything's a little sickly and a little gross. I was so frustrated by this point.
Alright, fine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the seats were this, like, pleather, like, bluish gray.
Yeah, if it was the wrong heat, you would stick to it.
Mm-hmm.
They were always too cold or too hot, and always gross.
Yep.
And usually had some kind of rip in it, and then you could see the stuffing, but you didn't really want to see the stuffing, because who knows what the stuffing was.
In the winter, you wanted to get a seat with one of the heater vents on it.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, there was misery.
Yeah. Oh, memories. Memories that are terrible. Boop. Yeah, trying to figure out where the blue actually was. It's weird to see when it's all deconstructed. And one little person back there was the only other adult in the dream.
I do like the dream you described, and I can't wait till everyone can see your full comic.
Am I gonna do each... I'm not gonna do a speed draw for each panel. I asked myself and immediately answered. Don't want to. But I do think I'm gonna wind up spending this much time on each panel. Having said that, I really was trying to keep this as simple as possible because, again, it was one panel. So I didn't want to shade every single bit of it. I didn't want to put too much detail that you're not going to see once it's much smaller. I don't know if I succeeded. But I could have pushed it farther, and then I think it would have been muddy. Here's me coloring everybody. I wanted to make everyone really gray shades of gray, but not all the same. That was important to me.
Yeah. Now, do you do a good variety on both kids and cats? So they're not just like... They're still like drab zombie children, but that doesn't mean that they all have to be exactly the same.
Yeah. I forgot a cat. When do I go back to that cat? Not yet, evidently.
The cats are for later. The cat now and later.
Yeah, most of the cats already had their thing. I did the coloring of the kids all in one layer, and I do think it would have been easier if I had done a couple different layers, but... C'est la vie. Oh, there we go. This cat butt. This cat butt got a lot of work. Because I realized that the shape that I had was not the shape that I wanted. So I go back... Yeah, so I go back into where the line work is, and fix the line work.
It's important you get your cat butts correct.
They were obviously the highlight of this entire piece.
Yeah.
The cat butt. There.
How would people know that it's a nightmare unless it's just full of cat butts?
So many cat butts. Well, and when you said that you were doing one of your childhood nightmares, most of my nightmares are actually very horrific. And so, to do a speed draw, I don't really want to do that to people. I don't want other people to have to witness what I witnessed in my brain. I have used nightmares as fodder for stories, like Entropy Head and such, is a lot of based on nightmare stuff.
Oh, yeah.
It's within a greater context, so it's broken out. To just draw one of my nightmares, it would be a lot of amputation and a lot of, like, worms coming out of your skin, and nobody needs that. So instead...
Well, I mean, you are doing cringe, so...
Yes.
Not to call you out or anything, but calling you out.
Well, do you mean Entropy Head?
Entropy Head, yeah.
I was gonna say, yeah, this is really cringy.
Well, you are doing Entropy Head.
Yeah.
Sorry, the title's changed. Yeah.
Well, all of my documents still say cringe, because that was the working title.
Yeah.
But I realized that wasn't searchable.
Well, that was a lot of the emotion that you were originally going for before
yeah.
going for Entropy Head, which is a bit more about the spiral that he's in.
Yeah, but I only changed it really because of the fact that no one would be able to search for it. If you just search cringe, you're not going to get anything other than, like, you know,
if you search cringe comic, you'd be like, oh, Superman's cringy in these 3 panels from 1946.
Right, and I didn't want that. So, Entropy Head. And then it gets to be kind of a homage to Eraserhead in a bizarre way.
Yeah.
Shading my arms. Because, again, I didn't want to shade very much, but I wanted to shade this part to draw more attention to it.
Yeah.
And
the bus is gloomy, so it makes sense that there be some shading.
Yeah.
You are still more vibrant than everything else on the bus, with the exception of cats.
Yeah. And picking the colors to shade with was interesting. Because I wanted to use a multiply to make it all sort of cohesive, but still wanted it to look semi-natural.
Yeah.
And I did use a clipping mask for it to do the shading part of it, because that way I could just go hog wild and not have to worry about it going everywhere. And I did want this to draw the eye to the left and then to the back. So that meant darkening up some other things, which you had pointed out when you came over and looked.
Yeah.
And I decided you were correct.
Yay!
So I do a little clipping mask on the kitties.
Once a week I get to be correct.
And so they're all darkened up.
Still kitties, but
yeah.
Darker kitties.
And I decided to leave the green eyes again so we can pull your eyeball that way.
Yeah.
And then she gets to have blonde hair. Because in the dream, she is somebody that exists in actual reality. And so I wanted her to be at least vaguely that person. I'm not gonna say who it is right now. But when the whole comic is done, maybe I'll tag her and embarrass myself. That sounds fun.
That sounds fun.
Oh, God, I already regret. But, you know.
What's to regret?
And then I had to darken that up so she would stand out more. I don't regret this picture. I don't think anyone should know what my brain does.
What your brain does? It's really, yeah.
So that's how it's going to look within the comic. That's where it's going to be.
I can't wait to see the whole thing. It's going to be great.
And it's going to be 3 pages total if we're including the title page of it. But otherwise, it's just going to be 2 actual pages of a total of like 9 panels. And hopefully they won't all be a dick to do, although again, it's all on a bus. Why?
Because that's where the dream was. So, if people want to see the comic, where are you going to post it?
Everywhere. I'm going to post it mostly it's going to be on Twitter.
Well, what's your Twitter handle?
Art of Rowyn Gold. And it'll also be on the Team Manticore one, because I'll share it everywhere.
Which is at Team Manticore?
At Manticore_team.
Oh, that's right. We couldn't get that.
Yeah.
At Manticore_team.
Well, we've got links. We've got links in the description.
We've got links and stuff.
Yeah, we got a link tree.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is the final piece. Bigger, closer to your face.
If you like our art, then like the video. If you hate our art, still like the video. Because we're nice people, and you like us. Otherwise, you wouldn't have watched this far in the video.
Yeah.
Unless that's how you get your jollies. In which case, get a hobby.
Like, subscribe, share with your friends, tell other people about our nonsense.
Yeah.
Oh, and just so while we're here, my ring fingers are not mangled. That was just me trying to draw all of my nonsenses on my ring fingers.
The braces.
The braces and my wedding ring.
Aww.
So, that's all jammed in there somewhere.
Aww.
But yeah, so this was my piece, and these were our nightmares.
What a lovely bus of the dead with cats. Good job.
Rock on.
Rock on, everybody.